Hey girl, hey, welcome back to another video. If you guys are new here, I'm Dory. I create lifestyle and self-care content, so if that is of interest to you guys, please be sure to hit the like button down below and consider subscribing to my channel to see more videos just like this one. Let's go ahead and get into the video because I know you're dying to get rid of the laziness, get out of the funk, get out of the mood, get out of the unmotivated space that you were in. So let's go ahead and jump right in. If you kind of been feeling stuck in like a little bit of a lazy era and struggling with procrastination, you're not alone. Please believe that. If you've been stuck in kind of like a lazy area and struggling with procrastination, you're not alone, girl. Please believe that. Because today we're going to dive into the 7 practical steps that I use and that you need to use too to help you boost your productivity, overcome procrastination, and create a routine that works for you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, first things first is to identify your procrastination triggers. And what do I mean by this? Basically, what triggers you to be as unproductive as you can possibly be? What is that? Is it a distraction? Is it something you'd rather be doing, but you know you really shouldn't be doing it? Just kind of keeping you from accomplishing what it is that you need to do, or keeping you in the state of procrastination. Are you procrastinating honestly because the task seems too big? Honestly, ask yourself these questions and figure out like what it is that causes you to procrastinate and what triggers it. I know for me, there are times when I'm like, oh my gosh, it seems like this is too much for me to actually be able to accomplish, too much for me to actually do. I kind of don't feel like doing any work right now, but I kind of need to. What is it that kind of causes you to drift into the sea of procrastination? Really identify that, spend some time with yourself, write these things down also because you want to know what you need to look for and what you need to kind of be aware of when these feelings start to rise up. Basically, by identifying these triggers, you can address them and basically directly figure out how to target them and avoid them. Or number 2, set clear and achievable goals. Okay, setting clear and achievable goals is so essential because breaking your goals into small and sort of manageable, bite-sized pieces or tasks, if you will, this makes it feel less intimidating and kind of helps you track your progress a little easier. Also, what I like to do, even though I hated this trying to remember this, what I kind of have to think about this in a very technical sense, and it kind of brings me back to college, but kind of setting up SMART goals. So 1, is it something that's specific? Specifically, what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve? What are you wanting to accomplish? How are you wanting to accomplish it? 2, is it measurable? How are you going to measure that level of success? It does not have to be some huge thing because again, I feel like that makes things a little overwhelming and basically kind of leads you to just quit the whole thing in general. So is it measurable, and how are you going to break up how you measure your success? 3, is it achievable? Is it something that's actually within reach for you now? Again, it kind of perpetuates the idea that yes, it's achievable, so yes, I should be able to go for it. When something just seems totally out of reach, you are less likely to even try to go for it anyway. So make sure that's achievable so that it's something that you can kind of keep up with. 4, is it relevant to what it is that you were doing? So say for instance, one of my goals is I want to wake up at 7 o'clock each morning so that I can exercise. 1, it's a specific goal. I have a specific time that I want to wake up and then what I'm waking up for. 2, it's measurable. Each morning, I want to wake up each morning at 7 a.m. and make sure that I can exercise. How do I measure that success? Am I exercising each morning when I wake up at 7 in the morning? 3, is it achievable? I would have to say that it is. If you're somebody who's not a morning person, maybe waking up at 7 a.m. or earlier isn't for you, and that's totally fine if that's still something that you want to achieve to kind of get out of the slump and be a bit more productive earlier in the day. But you might want to adjust your times if you can, like maybe try waking up at 8:30 and then scaling it back to 8, scaling it back to 7:30, and just progressively doing that. And then 4, is it relevant? Is it relevant to something that you want to do and what your overall goal is? If your overall goal is to lose weight or your overall goal is to get into a healthier lifestyle, is it relevant to what that overall goal is? For instance, again, if I want to wake up each morning at 7 a.m., exercise, yes, that would be relevant if that were my overall goal because I'm implementing earlier times and the intention of actually exercising to implement that healthy lifestyle and that healthy habit. Last one is time bound. And what I mean by this is there a deadline that you want to implement into your goal? And I love this because it fits into the entire exiting lazy girl era because you put yourself on a specific timeline, not to rush yourself one, also not to get down on yourself if you don't exactly meet your goal within that time frame, but to put it into perspective what you're working towards and how much time, girl, that you have to get there. So is it specific? Do you have a specific specific deadline and a specific timeline to get to that specific goal. Setting that kind of gives you something to look forward to a little bit, you know? Sort of like a vacation. You have it marked down on your calendar, all these weeks and months adding up, leading up to it. You're very excited to kind of get to it. Or again, going back to the example that I gave, if you're trying to lose weight or get into a healthy lifestyle for your vacation, which you should be doing that anyway, girl, not just for a vacation. Before your vacation, you have that kind of to visualize and see how much time you have until that deadline. It just makes you go harder, you know? Okay, next thing is creating a daily routine. And I talked about this in my previous video, more specifically morning routines and evening routines. And I will link it up here for you guys to watch, which I recommend watching. But creating a daily routine. Basically, a well-structured daily routine can significantly improve your productivity. Plan your day with specific time blocks dedicated to work, personal activities, to-do lists, events, upcoming things, whatever the case is. Create your routine and stick to it. It helps to establish a really regimented way that you go about your day. Honestly, I felt like whenever I implemented a routine into my schedule, if I even kind of veered off, which is okay to do every now and again, but if I even kind of veered off, I was, you know, I felt a little uncomfortable, you know, because it just felt like I wasn't being as intentional and as productive as I possibly could be and as I know I could. So when you establish that routine, it just creates everything just like in a nice balance for you. Also, consistency in your routine can help establish productive habits and reduce procrastination, because as we know and as I just mentioned, when you have a set routine, you're less likely to kind of veer off from it and just do whatever. Stick to it, at least owe it to yourself to stick to it. And once you stick to it, you'll find it so much easier to be able to do that and follow that through, and then add or incorporate anything else in that you would like to add into it. Set a bare bones routine for yourself. Morning, afternoon, evening, and then night. What are those things within those time blocks? Set those out and follow those things and stick to it. And I promise you, you're gonna see just a huge change, one, in your productivity and also kind of how you feel. When you have a routine, that's like your baby. That's your routine. That's what you do. That's what you know. Routines are not boring, y'all. I used to think routines were boring, but once you get into it, it's just a blessing. Okay, next thing is to use time management techniques. But I know it kind of seems like, oh, it seems a little like, what? Like, what does this have to do with exiting your lazy girl era? And I will tell you how. So incorporating time management techniques, sort of like the Pomodoro technique, where you implement a certain amount of time to working and focusing solely on the task at hand, and then taking a break in between. And I don't mean like tasks like brushing your teeth or things like that you'd add into your routine, but I'm saying the things that you actually are working on, whether it be your actual work, it's a 9 to 5, you're a business woman, a businessman, you're an entrepreneur, whatever the case is, you are focusing on a specific project at hand and focusing on what specifically that is, and then you're going to take a little bit of a break. And this to me prevents burnout. I cannot tell you how many times when I was working a 9 to 5, I worked literally from 9 to 11 until lunch, and even then I was on meetings. Don't even get me started on that. Even then I was on meetings during my lunch. It just put me in a sense of like burning out. It wasn't working for me, and I felt like over time I felt like I was getting lazier and lazier with doing the tasks that I actually needed to do, because I was just doing things constantly. So when I found like actually setting aside time to, for instance, you can honestly think about it like exercising, and I feel like I bring up exercising so much, but it makes sense in this particular example. You're doing a set of your workout, whether it's upper body, lower body, you're doing your sets. Whenever you do your sets, you don't immediately just hop into, unless you are like that, but you don't immediately just hop into another set. You give yourself some time to take a break, build up the strength and the stamina to go into the next set, so that you're not burnt out completely and you have a little bit more energy in the tank to do the next set. That is basically what I'm saying. When you set aside time to focus on a specific task at hand, and then give yourself a little bit of break, a little bit of you time, whatever that might look like, get some tea, popcorn, I don't know, do whatever. Not that it has to be a super long thing, but give yourself tiny breaks so that you work with yourself to not necessarily get burnt out throughout the entire day, causing you to be burned out and lazy. Number 5, minimize distractions. And these are always going to be in these types of videos for me, because there's so many distractions that come up and it's so important to get rid of them. Not to say they're never going to come up, or not to say that doom scrolling every now and again is like a bad thing, but we don't want to keep perpetuating that into our daily habits. So create a focused work environment by minimizing those distractions. Again, this might involve turning off notifications, using web blockers, or just setting up a dedicated workspace without all of the, gadgets and distractions that would cause you to kind of veer off from what you're supposed to be focusing on. And you might not think it because there's so many things to be distracted by, but when you identify those distractions, a distraction-free environment can just kind of help produce the productivity that you might be looking for, girl. It honestly might just all be the distractions for you. Just identify what it is and then how to get rid of it, or how you can be without it for a certain amount of time. However, I do want to emphasize the fact that there are some, they're not necessarily distractions, but things that you can add into a dedicated workspace that might help you work a little bit more. For instance, me, I love listening to lo-fi music whenever I'm doing something, and it kind of helps me focus and really hone in on the task. And I also think that some podcasts are very helpful to listen to as well. So figure out, this is actually kind of fun, figure out any kind of podcast that you do enjoy, what you enjoy listening to, maybe what you want to learn with those podcasts, or if there's any kind of music that kind of helps you mellow out and just kind of focus instead of distracting you. Find out what those are. Just my homework for me to you. Find out what those are and start implementing that into your everyday routine so that it's not quite like you're just completely siloed, but those distractions are gone. You just have the main point that you can kind of mellow out to, but also still focus on your task at hand. The next thing is building in regular breaks. Again, it's important to do that. Like I mentioned, for the time management techniques, it's still important to build in breaks, because if you don't, again, you will burn out. We will burn out, and then that's when the cycle of being lazy comes back in. We want to make sure that we're holding up our stamina and holding up the productivity as much as possible, and that comes with taking breaks. You are not lazy for taking a break. It's so important for maintaining productivity, or reducing at least the risk of burning out. Schedule short breaks throughout your day to rest and recharge. Whatever that might look like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a nap. It could literally just be you tuning into maybe your favorite TikToker or your favorite YouTuber, or it could just be like if you do want to take a nap, if you have the flexibility to do that. Just find time to kind of rest and recharge, and just take a minute for yourself. Again, connect with yourself, have like a little meeting with yourself to figure out how the day is going, and then just relax for a quick minute. You could also use the time to stretch, take a walk, listen to music, again, listen to a podcast that you enjoy. Just anything that's going to take your mind off of something that you have been really dedicating a lot of your time to that day, which is still a good thing, but really dedicating a lot of your time to that day, and just kind of take a moment for you. And then last but not least, celebrate your progress, because getting out of your lazy girl era is not easy. And I give you props, 1, for clicking on this video, and 2, for making the decision to want to get out of that era. It's easy to be lazy, you guys. Let's be honest. It's easy to be lazy. It's easy to not want to be productive. It's easy to kind of fall into the same trap of doing the same thing day after day that isn't necessarily a good fleshed out routine that you've built for yourself that gets you where you want to be, or working towards where you would like to be. It just keeps you stagnant. We kind of become a little fixated on the laziness, and I don't think that's something a lot of us really talk about, and we kind of just rest in the laziness. As much as it sucks to say that, it kind of just happens, and that's okay. But one of the things that you do have to do whenever you do make the choice to get out of your lazy girl era, get into more productive working mindset, and accomplish the things that you want to accomplish and the goals you have set out for yourself, you have to celebrate your progress. Because if you don't, you can keep going and going and going and going, and you won't think and look back at, man, I accomplished this even though it was small. I accomplished this even though nobody knew about it, just me. I accomplished this and it was actually pretty big, and I should still celebrate myself even if it's not something I'm used to doing for myself. Make sure that you celebrate your progress. Recognizing your achievements and rewarding yourself can definitely boost the morale that you have for yourself, and still continue to aid in that productivity, because when you don't do those things, it might not be something that you realize, but it could be a very subconscious thing that you haven't taken time to celebrate you and the things that you have accomplished and how far you've come. So make sure that you take time to do that, because your schedule, your time, your routine is a very precious thing, and you should treat it as such. And you, my dear, are also as precious as well. So make sure that you are celebrating what you do, and just take a little minute to celebrate you. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be small. Whatever it is, however you celebrate yourself, find time to do it. And that is basically it, you guys. 7 tips to help you overcome your lazy girl era and get into more of a productive flow. Remember, it's all about progress and not perfection. Please keep that in your mind. I don't care if you have to write it on a sticky note, in your planner, wherever you have to. put on your bathroom mirror, write it somewhere so that you can remind yourself it's all about progress and not the perfection. If you found these tips helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos like this. And let me know down in the comments what you guys think. What do you guys do to kind of help yourself be a bit more productive and get yourself out of whether it's a negative mind space or just kind of a slump that you're in? What do you do that kind of helps, you know, you get out of that and also be a little bit more productive in your day-to-day and get you back on your feet? Share that down below so other people can see as well and take a few tips from that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.